Hello, hello, everyone. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Cantina MX Football Podcast, episode 464. This is a special one because after 3 weeks, we finally have some playoff action, starting with Toluca and Monterrey. Interesting results, and Pachuca about to hit it off against America on this lovely Wednesday. We also have our Champions Cup finalist, Vancouver versus Cruz Azul, and some serious stuff tonight, some serious accusations between David Faikasen and Jose, who has gone on record saying some Azteca days, and today shots were fired, and it's been nothing but chaos over on Twitter. Whereas exactly where we're streaming from tonight, we're also on YouTube. But I want to get right into the action. Monterrey, who, if we got to go a little bit backwards to explain how they got here. Monterrey finished the regular season in 7th. They actually had to go into the play-in, where they ended up facing a few teams. Excuse me, sorry. So Monterrey actually had to play against Pachuca, ended up losing. However, they still had a chance of redemption because they played the winner of the other team in the play-in, which was Juarez Pumas. Pumas on Sunday, where they won decisively 2-0. Germán Bertrame and Nelson Diosa, both who were also quite involved in today's result against Toluca. So, basically, after the regular season for Toluca, which ended on April 18th for them, they just sat back and watched for without a competitive first place. So that was their reward. However, today ended up hurting them, as it was quite obvious that they were out of rhythm. They had that ring rust. You finish the season on top in first place. You just want to keep it going. You want to keep the momentum going. And I'm not sure why they decided to stretch out the play-in so long. It was so unnecessary for the play-in to go as long as it did. The last regular season match was on April 20th. They decided to wait a whole 7 days for the play-in. Completely unnecessary. I don't understand why the FMF didn't have the play-in matches in the middle of the week, and then have the two fight for that final spot on the 27th. Instead, they decided to space it out over like 2 weeks, which was completely unnecessary. And I think if you're a team that finished in the top 4, this ended up hurting you because you were just so out of rhythm for 18 days, and it showed today with this Rayados Toluca game. Honestly, I think if Monterrey had been a little bit more clinical with their finishes, also a controversial handball call, this game could have easily ended up, 4 or 5-2. In the end, Toluca was able to rescue a goal in the 82nd minute, and I think that's going to be a huge boost for them as they try to close this out in Toluca. And Turco Mohamed, who's a guy who I was praising, who knows this Liguilla system, who's won it before multiple times. I don't know what they did for 3 weeks. I think they just took their foot off the gas, partied, maybe relaxed a little too long. And you got this Rayados team who honestly has no business even trying to compete for silverware. I mean, they did finish the regular season in 7th position, but they lost to Pachuca. Then they were lucky that they had a face off against a Pumas, who also doesn't deserve to go after some silverware this season. But those matches helped them. They had 2 weeks in a row of consistent football, competitive football. They weren't just playing friendlies behind closed doors. And now they got this crazy momentum. And today they were the more dominant team. I mean, it was not even close. And Toluca looked really, really out of shape today, in my opinion. Some great actions by Nelson Diosa, former Pachuca player. I don't know if he deserves credit for the goal. It was deflected by Ache, but it looked good. And Sergio Canales opens it up in the second half. Beautiful goal. And Bertrame got an assist from his former teammate Gallardo, Jesus Gallardo. Not sure what he was thinking there. I don't know if he forgot that he plays for Toluca now. But Gallardo with a massive, massive mistake in a crucial time in the game, 70th minute, gives a great pass to Bertrame. I don't know if he was trying to pass to the goalkeeper. I don't know if he was trying to pass to the center back. All I know is he definitely fell asleep on that play, and Bertrame put it away to make it 3-1. There was also a goal, honestly would have been the goal of the Liguilla so far. Some beautiful link-up play with Bertrame, Tecatito, and a great finish. However, it was ruled offsides, or not offsides. It was ruled handball, and the referee decided to take that goal back. But at one point, it was 3-1, and looking like it was gonna be 4-1 final score. So that's what we got right now in the Liguilla. Right now, we also have America Pachuca. We're about 3 minutes in this one, and it's 0-0. From a first glance, it looks like the stadium is a little empty. They're playing in Hidalgo, and America, we'll see if they also have some of that ring rust. They haven't played a competitive match in almost 3 weeks. Pachuca was able to squeeze into the playoffs by beating Monterrey on the 27th of April. So they've also been without some football for some time. I think this one's a little bit more even then. But America right now, we'll see. I think there's a lot of pressure for them to win their 4th consecutive title in a row. They ended the season in 2nd place. And Pachuca has always had their number. They always like to complicate things for America. So I'm really looking forward to seeing this match and see how things go as we continue our episode on Cantina. Tomorrow, we're going to have Necaxa and Tigres. Both of those teams were already qualified. They didn't go into a play-in, so they've also been without rhythm for about 3 weeks. And León Cruz Azul is the other match tomorrow. Now, Cruz Azul has been active. They've played in the Champions Cup and qualified to the final.
be a hamper, like, or help with like recovering of injuries. In Liga MX in these particular teams, do you see that gap or that time off as being a hindrance or something that might provide a benefit long term? And do you see any kind of a like improvement for that? Because that's a long time, right?
It's a very long
So
time.
yeah,
You know, I can only compare this to like my own personal experience. When you're on, you're on. I think, me recently been playing pickleball. I have my days, my good days, I have my bad days. I will tell you the most frustrating thing is when you're in form, when you're all your shots are hitting and you're just in a really good place and then the game's over. You got in pickleball, you got to put your paddle up, you got to go back in line and even 30 minutes or having to wait 15 minutes between games, it like fucks up your flow, because you're hot and then you're cold and then you got to go back out and warm up. We saw that happen in the Juarez Pumas game, right? I mean, that game got delayed a couple times because of the storm, the sandstorm, and Pumas had to warm up like 2 or 3 times, and the game kept getting delayed because it fucks with you as a player, right? You're mentally prepared for the game, and then they tell you to go sit down, and then you got to warm up again, then you got to sit down. So I can't imagine what 3 weeks does to a team, especially like the top teams, right? Like your Toluca, your America, your Cruz Azul. Like these teams are used to, playing really good football and just going on to the next week and just, mentally preparing for their next opponent. But when you tell them, hey, guess what? Our next competitive match is 3 weeks from now, you lose that edge, and we've all heard all the things about the Mexican player and how unprofessional they are and how they don't take, prep serious. So I can imagine a lot of these guys kind of let loose these 3 weeks. There's only so much training you can do. If you're not getting competitive matches, like you're going to lose your edge.
for sure. Because I was thinking about that. I was thinking, all right, you look at some of these leagues like EPL or La Liga, uh, even Serie A, and you would think like we're kind of like that next level of professionalism where they take their craft like super serious. That layoff, they use it. Like I can only speak about other sports like basketball, for example. Some of these guys, when they get their time off, they literally just do it to. They do like physical therapy, play video games, lay in bed, eat. That's it.
Yeah.
Because their craft is like their foremost. That's like the most important thing. With the Mexican player, I remember as a kid, like one of the World Cups. I don't recall which one it was, but there was like all this like shithousery going into the World Cup, where it was like these guys were like drinking.
South
Uh,
Africa,
yeah,
2010.
yeah, 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 and they were like having like enjoying their rachera. They were enjoying their beers like leading into it. So it's like that 18 days or whatever. It makes you think like, man, that could potentially derail some of these guys, but who knows?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really great example. 2010 World Cup. Javier Aguirre decides to have a 60-day camp in anticipation of this World Cup, and it really pissed me off for a couple of reasons. Number one, Chivas were doing really, really well in 2010, and they were poised to, go deep in the playoffs and potentially win some silverware. I mean, this is the same year that Chivas went to the Copa Libertadores final. I mean, this was a team that was in form. Luis Michel, you had Venado Medina, Omar Bravo, Bofo, obviously Chicharo. Like this team was just fire. And, Aguirre decides to be super aggressive. It's the first time the World Cup's hosted in Africa. They get acclimated to the weather, the time, whatever, but they decided to have a really, really long camp. And they were kind of like in quarantine. They weren't really allowed to, do too much. They were just like locked in for too long. And meanwhile, their European counterparts and most of the world didn't pull their players until like 2 or 3 weeks before the World Cup kicked off. And honestly, that ended up being their advantage because they came into the World Cup hot, maybe not acclimated to their teammates because they all play in different leagues and stuff. But I think after 60 days, you get fucking sick of seeing the same people, right? Like, oh, fuck off, man. I don't even want to play with you anymore. Like, a lot can happen in 60 days.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think you have to find that sweet spot, especially as the manager. You don't want to. take it too easy, but also at the same time like provide that ample kind of runway. I did have a question regarding like just Liga MX in general. So you look at a team like Rayados, right? Rayados always seems to be like one of these like teams that present themselves as one of the the leading examples, if you will, of what Liga MX can be. They have a beautiful stadium. They have tons of money behind them. They sign names. Um, Seems like they're well put together organizationally,
Hmm.
but there's something lacking. It's like a pecho frio, something about them, right? Like regular season, like they're always there. They're always one of the best teams, but like something happens, something misses. Do you think it's a Cruz Azul effect, where it's something just haunts them, where they miss that there's something that's missing there, or do you think it's there's something else there about Liga MX that maybe I don't see? But it seems like these guys are always they're stacked, and then there's something that always like falters.
They kind of remind me of Spurs, although unlike Spurs, they actually have won some silverware in recent times. Their last league was in 2019. They were runners up this last season, and they also have won the Copa, the Champions League, our Champions League. Right? They have 5 titles. I think it's just a matter of they have the money, but money doesn't, guarantee you titles. It's not like you can write a check out and win the league that way. And I feel like in moments where they're expected to win, like they don't do that well. I think when they're more of like the underdog and kind of fall under the radar, like this season they finished 7th, the expectations aren't that high. I think they can fall, fly under the radar and be like, all right, now we can like kind of go in as an underdog. But when they're expected to perform and, everybody was rooting for them to beat America and stop this, madness, they failed. Right. And it's like, you start looking at like, who's to blame? Like you guys have a really good attendance. You guys have a really good stadium, really good coach, really good players. Like at a certain point, it's definitely maybe a culture or a mindset thing. I don't know what it is. And yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens in this match against Toluca.
I think there is like I don't know what it is. It's like that if factor, an infectious factor. It's like remember the Yankees in their heyday? Like they could be like I don't know, seemingly a mediocre team, but they get to the playoffs and it's like all right, playoff mode. Same thing with like LeBron. He turns it off in the playoffs or turns it on in the playoffs. America kind of the same way. Last Liguilla, right, where they're like meh, like mediocre, or they're just like whatever, and then they just turn it on, and then it's like the momentum builds, and everybody's like, oh shit, like you've awoken the monster. So I wonder if it's like these teams like Rayados, it's just like a self fulfilling prophecy, if you will, where it's like they know, like deep down, they don't have what it takes. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it all comes down to the coach too. Making sure that they uh, exude confidence and have a great game plan. I think Tano Ortiz, when they choked big time, I mean, that guy just has a history of choking. And even their latest coach, like he's, definitely at fault for a lot of these lackluster performances. I mean, they had to literally get into the second leg of the play in, right? They lost their match against Pachuca and got lucky that they had a second chance against Pumas. But this is a team that's kind of been underperforming for a while. And it doesn't make sense because on paper they have a really good squad. I mean, Sergio Ramos was not playing today. He was up in the palco. But this is a team that I think it's gonna be tough for Tuco to close them out. Honestly, I think Toluca were very lucky tonight to get that second goal. That's gonna be huge for them going into this match on Saturday.
It's interesting to see your. I know a lot of you guys are Chivas fans. To see Alexis Vega, it's like the seeing your ex thrive in a new environment, right? What's your take on him at Toluca now? From what I've seen, just kind of in some videos and highlights, he looks like he's in shape. Just a different man, if you will. But I don't know if it's like a facade or do you truly see a transformation? Do you think it's Chivas is the issue, or what do you think led to
Yeah,
that?
Yeah, yeah, I think, a lot of players have gone on record saying this. Being in Guadalajara is like, living in fucking Oklahoma and then moving to like the Big Apple, right? It's like a huge jump in, just coverage, right? You have a lot more people watching your every move. There's a lot more temptation, right? There's a lot more of a nightlife. And, at Chivas, he was sort of poised to be our savior. They gave him the fat paycheck, they gave him the number 10, and they're like, you're supposed to be like our guy. And, maybe that pressure was just too much for him. He was also dealing with a lot of injuries. Um, so for him to return back home to his little nest, and Toluca got to be able to relax a little bit, get back into, where he fell in love with the sport, where he was discovered as a kid. And I will say his supporting cast is a lot stronger. You have Paulinho, you have a great coach, and you have a lot of like, foreigners. And, you're no longer one of 22 Mexicans in the locker room. You have a little bit of diversity, a little different perspective. Maybe the vibes are better. There's been videos of him in the locker room just like singing and really having fun with the rest of his teammates. And I don't know if he had that kind of environment at Chivas. I mean, we've seen glimpses of the team gelling, but we've also seen how crucial and how fickle the fans are in Chivas. So I think he's found himself at Toluca, and I'm not mad at all. I will say though, these rumors of him being approached by America definitely rubbed me the wrong way, and I could absolutely see him going to America because that's just what America does, and that would be a problem for sure. I don't know if Rifado's on. I know he's got the mic on mute, but I'll keep going here. My hot take for the night is all the teams that had to sit out for 3 weeks are going to be struggling, at least in this first leg. And I would actually favor the other teams that are coming in with more form, at least for this first leg. Cruz Azul, like I mentioned, just played last week against Tigres to secure their ticket in the Champions Cup final. You've also had who was the other team that yeah, Pachuca. They had a week up on America. But yeah, I think these play-in matches, the teams that were in the play-in are going to have the advantage at least in the first leg.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you mentioned that, Jaime. But I do also want to push back a little bit on that idea in the sense that up until last tournament, in which America won the whole thing, no one from the repechaje or the play-in had won it. So like, while like maybe in this first match, I think it does like help that you have a rhythm. I don't think it's helped so much so because bar America, no one from the play-in has gone on to win the whole thing.
Yeah, for sure. I just think that Monterrey having just played over the weekend and then having to play today, Monterrey clearly looked a lot better than Toluca. And tomorrow with Cruz Azul Leon, I would definitely favor Cruz Azul. The Necaxa Tigres game is the only one that's pretty fair. I think Necaxa has been sitting out for some time. Tigres did play last week in the Champions Cup semifinal, so they might have a little bit of a heads up. But yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see how these first legs play out, and if any of these are too big to overcome. I think again Monterrey could have easily scored 4 or 5 goals today, and that would have been really hard to overcome in Toluca.
In spite of how well Rayados played today, the result really does favor Toluca, who's going to have the second leg at home in that like stronghold that is their stadium in Toluca, and with always like all red, like a sea of red, right? And Monterrey tonight, like some of the stands were empty. It wasn't a packed house in spite of it being the playoffs, and so
Yeah.
I for all like the form that Monterrey is in, it wasn't enough to give a true advantage to them tonight because Toluca has two away goals. I don't even know if that counts still, um,
I don't
but
think
like
so.
it
Yeah.
it doesn't, right. But they're higher seated, so
Yeah.
wouldn't they
I
get the
think
benefit?
the tie break goes to the team that is the higher seed. Yeah, if they
Yeah.
end up, being tied on aggregate.
So, but still, like they got two goals away from home, and now they have them at home. Like it's just
Yeah.
perfectly, for it's just perfect for El Turco to finish it off. So I do think it's in their advantage.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm looking at this calendar, right? I mean, the last official match was April 20th, and then they decided to extend the play-in until like that Sunday, the 27th. So they waited a whole week to figure out which teams were going to get through. I think they could have shortened this up. I think those games should have happened on that Wednesday, that Thursday. And then, the Pumas Monterrey game should have happened on the 26th, 27th. And then you have Liguilla kicking off like on April 30th. I think the 3 weeks was a little excessive. There might be some teams that appreciate that, get a chance of recovery, maybe some bang up injuries. They've had more time to recover from that. But I just think that this has been prolonged, and very unnecessary. And I've been hurting for a while, trying to watch these like Liga matches on the weekend. You realize there's nothing going on, man. Like, what the hell? You know, especially the way the regular season ended, it just felt like there was a lot of excitement and a lot of momentum, and it kind of just like fell flat in these last couple of weeks.
Yeah, but there has been some upside. Like I don't think we would have had Henry Martin start like he's starting today for Club America if it wasn't for the 3 weeks break. So like there are benefits. A lot of these squads are depleted because of the congestion in the season. Never has a team or football players played as much as they do today. So 3 weeks is a good break for people who are nursing injuries and stuff. And I think America benefited from that. And yeah, I think the worry is always like what you were saying is like the lack of discipline in the league. Fucking Mexicans, they love to party. They love the desmadre, you know. And it wouldn't surprise me, if like there was, at least a couple of teams or like with guys like fucking around, and then the media catches on to it, all the fucking pendejadas. Can't be good for the physical aspect that these games take from people. I mean, take from a player.
Yeah. A lot has happened since our last episode. We spent most of last week with our special guest and learning about Santos, and coincidentally, Santos came up on the news today. They are officially for sale. However, they're asking for $350 million. I want to know where they got this evaluation from. But Santos Laguna, they're in Torreon. It's not a big market. Obviously, they have a stadium that cost them $100 million to build, so I guess you can factor that into the price. But Santos Laguna themselves, I will say they've accomplished a lot with what they've, they have 6 leagues, but nowhere near that evaluation. I think, they should be at least 1 to 150, 200 at most for Santos Laguna. I don't think anyone's gonna come in there and try to buy them for 350. That's way too high.
It's a good starting point, but I just want to chime in that the goalkeeper for Pachuca
He
just
just
now
got
got a red card.
he just got a red card. It was a breakaway, and he was the last defender. So this is gonna be a very interesting. Oh wow! This is 25th minute.
And this is Pachuca's home game. This is the game in which they're supposed to like get something, right? So
Yeah,
sucks for them.
looks like
Uh,
the 3 weeks that Henry did to recover. He's gonna be on the injury reserve again. He just got hit pretty hard.
I think he got the wind knocked out of him. I think he'll be all right.
Yeah, I
But
saw.
but you were talking about Santos, right? So like
Mhm.
200, yeah, like that sounds like better, right? But like you also have to like it is dictated by the market, right? And if someone's willing to pay 350, then that's what it's worth, right? So like if the owners can get that price, good for them. But like I think that's just where they're starting, right? You want to aim for the most possible, and That's the high end, and
Yeah.
uh,
I would
that
put
doesn't.
my tinfoil hat on and say you inflate your evaluation because you have someone who's trying to, wash some money, launder some money, right? So you end up paying that 350 and it's like a win-win situation for both parties involved. I think that's the only reason I could see this number being, paid. But aside from that, I don't think anyone from the outside is looking at Santos Laguna saying, "Yep, that's worth 350."
Do you guys know what the last or the most recent acquisition or sale transaction of a Liga MX team was?
Yeah, I was looking up that earlier. They're not very transparent, of course, when it comes to like money transactions in Liga MX, but Orlegi themselves bought Atlas for less than $60 million.
Yeah, and that's Guadalajara as well. So that 300, maybe it's like, I don't know. I think I heard you mention that there's a
Stadium.
stadium. It's probably not paid off. It's probably high interest. They're going to package that debt into the sale there. But that's a steep number, but it's maybe just a good negotiation tactic on their behalf. Just start high, and they know they're going to work their way down from that 300.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, I think the best example of valuation would be America. It's on the stock market. I think they have about 320 million shares. And each share is about like $2.30, 50 cents. So, you multiply that, they're anywhere between 600 million to 900 million
So
valuation,
like,
stock value, share value. So I don't.
I just looked it up, and the last team to be sold was Necaxa, right, for 200 million in 2022. So I would say Necaxa is probably less significant than Santos.
200?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Still, with everything that's in that city, though, I just think about the realm, man. I think like middle of the desert. There's not much you can branch out.
This is per Chat GBT, and they're saying while a specific purchase price wasn't disclosed, the team was valued at over 200 million in 2022.
I'm skeptical about that number because I know that I know there were some big names that were involved with that deal, but they only bought 50% of Necaxa, right? You had the people from Wrexham get into that, Verlander, I think Mesut Ozil's in that too. But yeah, 200 seems a lot for Necaxa.
Yeah, I mean, because if you think about like the brand isn't as strong in the U.S., the stadium doesn't get that packed. They don't sell a lot of titles. Where the fuck do you get $200 million valuation?
I disagree. Like, I think it's like I said, it's whatever the market dictates, right? And if the market's going to say it's 200 million, right, and pay that or something close to that, then that's what it's valued at. But like, you know, um, just to play the devil's advocate, like you have no relegation. You're the most popular sport in not just Mexico, but you're one of the most popular soccer teams or leagues in the United States as well. Like a lot of money, two currencies that are on the rise, right? And then they're more involved every year with like things like Leagues Cup, right? And it's a safe bet, right? And then you like you throw something in like the fact that they churn out talent constantly, that they have a fucking thriving cantera in spite of how awful they're performing. They do have like players that are coming out and getting minutes and they can sell and are selling. Like I don't know, 200, 250, 300. It wouldn't be crazy for it to go for something like that, especially right now because I feel like there's been a lot of investment in the MLS, and I think in the interactions between MLS and Liga MX, Liga MX is the more popular. The they make more money. It's the better product. And so like, why wouldn't it be worth so much? And especially now that we're like cleaning house with like throwing Billy Alvarez in jail and making the America guy step down. Like, if they can clean that aspect up, like this would be like fucking giant.
So big decision here, overturned call by the referee. Pachuca's goalkeeper will not be receiving a red card because the entire play was called offside. So
Perfect.
back to that 0-0, 31st minute. Yeah, I think my issue with Santos asking for that is that kills any hope of me seeing Amaury sell Chivas, because if Santos is worth that much, Amaury's gonna ask for $1 billion or more, and that's just not feasible. So for the sake of wanting my team to get sold, I really hope that Santos doesn't get bought out for 350, bro.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I still think that number's crazy, but yeah, if let's say it was realistic, Chivas will need to go at least for 600, at least on the low end. Anywhere between 600 and 900. Because the Chivas brand is 10 times more the Santos brand. Chivas could play Leagues Cup, East Coast, Midwest, West Coast, stadiums get full. They throw Santos, outside of the Southwest into the Midwest or the East Coast. You don't want to go into those games.
I've only ever met one Santos fan, dude, my whole life.
Yeah, and that's what it goes to tell you. I mean, it's a small region, a small, city. Like, there's no way they have that power that, Cruz Azul, or even like Monterrey and Tigres, Monterrey and Tigres, they sell out stadiums in the Southwest. I just can't see Santos having that same pull.
Yeah, we'll see. I just think that you also got to look at current form, right? Santos have been the sort of the doormat of Liga MX for a while now, and obviously they already own another team. So I feel like if you're looking at this evaluation, you have a lot to work with. You're like, number one, you've sort of isolated your fan base. You guys aren't even investing in the club. You guys already own two other clubs. Let's knock this price down and get it done.
Don't forget the owner's on the run for past due taxes or something like that.
Is he really?
Yeah, they said it was like 17 million or something. But then Fantasma Suarez, or what his name is, he said that that's just the amount that's been published, but he actually owns a lot more, and that's why he's on the run. So who knows?
Yeah, who knows? I'm very curious to see who ends up being rumored or who ends up buying Santos Laguna. This could be very exciting for Liga MX, right? If it's, let's say, like a foreigner, maybe some oil money, or maybe like a big name. That's gonna bring a lot of more attention to Liga MX. And if Santos ends up fielding a competitive team, that would be exciting too. Turn them into the next Moneyball team.
Well, who I'm actually gonna look up is there's this guy who's always tweeting that already that him and a bunch of like business guys from Torreon that reside in the U.S. They've been wanting to buy Santos, and that they've been submitting offers to him. And then Iragorri one time responded. He was all like, "If you're gonna submit an offer, then do it via X. Do it through the proper channels." So outside of that, the real question is like, you're putting that out there on the market, but who the fuck really wants to buy it outside of like loyal fans that might have the money? Like you see potential for some Saudi team, Saudi owners, American owners to come in and buy the team.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. I could see that happening.
I could see a rich Chinese businessman doing it. The reason I bring that up is because I think Torreon, that region of Mexico, has a high Asian, specifically Chinese population density. And I look at other clubs like, what is that? Is that Inter? Inter is Chinese. I know some of these countries, some of these clubs, they're funded by foreign money. So it'll be interesting. But maybe that's what Liga MX needs, like some rich ass Saudi or Chinese businessman to come in and shake things up.
you might be onto something. Torreon is known for producing metals, mining products, also automotive parts. They have a huge automotive like manufacturing sector. So we might see some Chinese overlords, take a look at that. We'll see. I'm like I said, I'm excited to see who they end up getting sold to and injecting some money and excitement back into the league. I know that I was actually really surprised to see Rob McKenney. I really messed up his name. The guy from Always Sunny in Philadelphia. He was recently showcased in a YouTube video. There's this like UK YouTuber who goes around the world, just reviewing stadiums and going to those places. It's Away Days is the name of his channel. And he was hanging out with Rob over at Wrexham. And then he invited him to go, to Necaxa to see the other club that he owns. So Rob got some FaceTime there on the YouTube channel. And they went to Necaxa, and he, was surprised with how like the ambiance there was, how good the food was, and how like popular the team was. And yeah, it was a pretty cool video. I'll make sure to like share it on the chat so you guys can take a look at it. But I'm just thinking about, I'm sure there's other Americans, especially with Wrexham's success now that they're in the championship. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of other American celebrities and stuff that want to get in on the action of owning a football club. I think it's like a trend, and if there's one thing about LA is like one has to outdo the other. It's a very competitive city. And maybe we can get some more Americans to invest in Liga MX.
Yeah, I think the upside to Liga MX is the sky's the limit. We have the potential to be the most popular soccer league in North America and all of the Americas, really. And it's because of the popularity in both Mexico, a very rich country, and the United States, a dominating figure, as well as far as like economic aspect is concerned. So there's a lot of money to be made here, I think, and I look forward to, some of like these clubs being taken in a new direction or giving life support, because Santos, they need it.
Do you think Brazil has money? Because how cool would it be for Santos of Brazil to like own Santos Laguna? I know that was their opening match when they opened up Estadio Corona. So I don't know if like they would like to unite those two brands together.
I'm pretty sure Santos was like in financial trouble not so long ago. I know they got relegated to the second division of the Brazilian league, and then they just came back with Neymar, right, who's injured again. But I'm pretty sure they had some like financial issues.
Oh wow.
So I wouldn't see anything like that, but who knows? And Brazil's doing really well. Like that. Like they have a lot of talent there, and viewership is good, and they produce a lot. It's a great league, better than ours for sure. But I think I think we might be a little bit better economically.
Yeah, they're strong. You see them bringing back a lot of players from Europe, and they pay them really well. I mean, Memphis Depay was just joined them, and he had success, and they pay him well. They always bring back the Brazilians like Neymar, Marcelo, and all these guys. And those guys aren't playing just for the love of the jersey. They're collecting millions as well. And you got to think that they've been dominating Copa Libertadores. And Copa Libertadores cash price is strong as well. They're definitely the strongest league in South America. So, yeah, they're definitely doing well.
For sure, Habibi. Your mic sounds a little choppy out there. We have Alberto El Beeper on the show. Welcome, man. Albert's on mute.
No beeping today. I'm in my car.
Oh, what's up, man?
What's going on? Hey, by the way, I sent a video to the Cantina MX Twitter mailbox.